Francis Bacon was born on January the 22nd, 1561, in London, England. He was the younger second son of Sir Nicholas Bacon, the Lord Keeper of the Seal, and his second wife, Lady Anne Cooke Bacon. Bacon's father, Sir Nicholas, came from a humble background and worked his way up to become the Lord Keeper of the Seal, a great honour at the time. His mother, Lady Anne, was the daughter of a man called Sir Anthony Cooke, who was a big humanist and also the teacher of the boy who would become King Edward VI. Bacon's cousin, Robert Cecil, at the end of Elizabeth I's reign, later became the chief minister of the crown and the Earl of Salisbury. So it's no understatement to say that Bacon was born into a very promising family. However, in his early years, little Bacon had a very weak constitution and suffered from bad health. It is believed that his earliest education came from being homeschooled. By the time he turned 12 in 1573, Bacon's parents decided to send him to Trinity College, Cambridge. There he stayed with Anthony, his elder brother, and was personally supervised and taught by the future Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. John Whitgift. Bacon's lessons were taught in Latin and revolved around a medieval curriculum that included astronomy, arithmetic, grammar, geometry, logic, the theory of music, and rhetoric, with the most important subjects being rhetoric, grammar, and logic. Soon, Bacon became known as a boy who was serious and who worked hard at his studies. During his time in Trinity College, Bacon had the fortune to meet Queen Elizabeth, who was so impressed by his exceptional intellect that she gave him the nickname the Young Lord Keeper. At the time, the natural philosophy taught in Cambridge was dominated by the studies of Aristotle's work. Bacon soon developed the opinion that the results and methods of science being practiced at the time were wrong, and that the obsession of the scholars with Aristotle's work stood in the way of scientific progress. Upon completion of his studies at Cambridge in late 1575, Bacon waited a few months before going on to enroll in a law programme at the Honourable Society of Gary's Inn, which his brother also attended. A few months later, Bacon decided to leave school to work under an English ambassador to France, Sir Aimé Paulet. While in France, Bacon was able to learn valuable political subjects. He toured Spain and Italy while studying languages, civil law, and statecraft. He even carried out routine diplomatic tasks. Bacon was also given the important task of delivering diplomatic letters for his uncle, Lord Burleigh, a man called Leicester, and even for the Queen to England. Bacon's father had previously arranged a hefty amount of money to purchase an estate for Bacon, but passed away before he completed the transaction. This meant that Bacon was only able to receive about 1/5 of the total money, as he had taken out loans previously. He basically went bankrupt. As sad as it was, Bacon's meagre inheritance left him completely broke. But the young lad did not give up. He turned to Lord Burleigh to help him find a well-paying position as a government official. Unfortunately, his request was shot down, or more specifically, the application he placed in the court through his uncle was rejected. Being just a teenager, Bacon was desperate to find a means to earn some money to support himself. However, good fortune soon smiled upon young Bacon when he was able to get a job in the House of Commons as a member for Cornwall in 1581. This allowed him to return to Gray's Inn, where he was able to complete his education. By the next year, Bacon was appointed to the position of an outer barrister. His hard work and dedication continued to pay off. In 1584, he composed his very first political memorandum, a letter of advice to Queen Elizabeth. That year, Bacon finally obtained a seat in the Parliament for Melcombe in Dorset. It was during this time that Bacon began to write on the condition of parties relating to the church, as well as the philosophical correction in the Temporis Partus Maximus, a lost tract. But even as he continued to toil and work, Bacon was not able to successfully obtain the position he desired, which would push him to success. In 1586, Bacon openly expressed his disapproval over the execution of Mary, the Queen of the Scots, an act that garnered the attention of many top dogs in the world of politics. That same year, Bacon became a bencher, and by the next year he was chosen as a reader in the courts. In the late 1580s, Bacon came to know a man called Robert Devereux. At the time, Robert was the second Earl of Essex, and he was Queen Elizabeth's favourite person. By 1591, Bacon had become Robert's confidential advisor, a smart move that would earn him favours later on. In early 1593, Queen Elizabeth suspected a plot by the Roman Catholics against her, so she called on the Parliament to investigate it. This would have been a good time for Bacon to rise to fame. However, he opposed a bill that was meant to triple the amount of allowance obtained in half the usual time, which led to him being disliked by so many people. He was branded a fame-seeker by his opponents, and was eventually kicked out of the royal court for a while. The next couple of years did not bring Bacon much good fortune, as he was faced with one failure after the other. To start with, in 1594, he was not successful in obtaining the newly vacant seat of the Attorney General. The next year, he also failed in his efforts to bag an even lesser position, the Solicitor General, despite the help he had from Robert Devereux. However, with Robert's influence on the Queen, Bacon was able to secure a position as the Queen's counsel, but his financial status was still in dire straits. His friends continued to try to place him in public office, but all efforts failed. Bacon even went as far as marrying Lady Elizabeth Hatton, a rich young widow, to reclaim his financial status, but even that failed when she divorced him for a richer man. So it was that by 1598, Bacon was riddled with debt and even arrested, but still he did not give up. In 1603, on account of his being actively involved in the royal court, law and politics, Bacon became a knight when James I ascended the English throne. Bacon saw a new light of hope that would light the way to his success, so he worked even harder. He worked his way up the political and legal ranks until he finally achieved his long sought-after position of Solicitor General in 1607. 1 year before this, in 1606, Bacon, now 45 years old, married Alice Barnum, a beautiful heiress and daughter of a London MP. In 1613, Bacon finally became the Attorney General. 3 years later, Bacon achieved the peak of his career when he received an invitation to join the Privy Council. In 1617, Bacon obtained the same position that his father had once held, the Lord Keeper of the Great Seal. In early 1629, Bacon became sick with very severe pneumonia, which eventually killed him. His was a life of hard work, perseverance, and a never-give-up attitude that led to his success.